Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Will. In the evening here, it's starting to look a little sunny. The sun's setting. You know what else is setting a little bit is QBTS. We saw it sell off today here, and I believe we kind of anticipated this move, right? So if we look at the recent trend and I show our drawings, when we covered this about 2 days ago, we had this previous resistance mapped out at about $9.50. See that resistance hit there on May 21st, and then it hit there as well May 23rd, May 25th, and 6th there. And then today, here at market open, started to sell off. Now, when we saw this sell off right here at market open this morning in our Stockmate live session, I actually didn't see it as a dip that we would buy. You can see very quickly, like within the first 10 minutes of our session, it had sold down here to 6:40 a.m. So about 9:40 Eastern time. It was already down about, I want to say like 6% or something like that. Let's see, what was it from here? Oh, 10%. By 6:40, it was already 10% down. And we were looking at it, and some people were looking at it in our Stockmate community, and we said, nah, it's selling off, but we could see a lot more of a dip today. And, we did see a temporary relief there where it pulled up to 1841, but it did continue down. As you can see, by the end of the day, it had sold off about 11% from those highs. So we just kind of identify those levels again. We had this resistance here, and we had semi-support, which I could actually move down a little bit there, which now seems to be acting possibly as a resistance. So we see it pull down, really struggling to break back above that $17.50 range, and it just got rejected once again. So, and I just zoomed in a lot. But what we need to know about QBTS, right? We take a look at it. When you zoom out, it looks almost ridiculous how high it is. And the reality is that AI is heavily going to be influenced by the different technologies that come out that allow for computing power to be more efficient. And quantum is the front runner for that. So there's a reason that we go to the Qubits conference, or that we take the effort to meet the executives of this company, and then we go to Scottsdale and actually go to their conferences, or that we go to CES in Las Vegas and meet them. There's a reason we go to these quantum conferences, is to get the inside look. Now, when it comes to the recent moves with QBTS, even with all the information and bullishness that I have around the AI boom of 2025 in this age that we're in right now, nevertheless, we're looking at what is a classic overextension. You can see the RSI, the MACD looking very overbought right now. And in my eyes, QBTS seems like it's not in a position that I would even consider trading a short-term buy in any situation. If we have even rate cuts, or we see the market do better on AI infrastructure news, like when Trump dropped that bombshell over the past weekend, then yes, we could see, some more momentum in the markets. But even in that case, I still see QBTS as what could be a potential sell-off continuation down to maybe at least this $15 range as we mapped out the other day. And in a more conservative outlook, even as low as where it was before it made its rally, early May, it was at about $6 a share. I think that that's $6 to $8 a share could make sense for the stock. Now, nothing against the technology. While it seems innovative and the revenues did increase in their recent financials, you still have to look at the part of the financials that become alarming. You have a lot of articles that come out from, quantum computing, buy these quantum stocks. It's, which quantum stock should you buy, and all those things. But when you really dive deep into what is the net income of D-Wave, that negative $5 million net income with their surges in revenue as of recently, while it's a nice surge of 500% year over year, and the net income's not too bad, a $5.5 billion market cap just can't really be sustainable if their net income is looking negative. I mean, if you look in the last 4 quarters, you got negative 17 in the first, negative 22, and then negative 86. I mean, we're talking about over negative $100 million in revenue, or in net income, that they've lost. However, their market cap is sitting there above 5 billion. So really, just from an investment standpoint, doesn't make a lot of sense. And I would see that if there was any type of investment I would make in QBTS right now, it most likely would be leaning towards the, I don't want to say it, putting in some puts on QBTS. One other thing that's interesting is QBTX. I didn't know this, but they just came out recently with this 2x of QBTS. And as you can see, while QBTS recently soared, what was about 400, what was it? While it soared a pretty big amount on QBTS, over on QBTX, the 2x, it surged 500% in about 2 weeks. So they just launched this. It's the equivalent of, for example, GOOX. GOOX, while Google goes up 1%, GOOX goes up 2%. While AMD goes up 1%, AMDL goes up 2%. And we trade those quite often. They're quite common, and they just came out with one with QBTX. So what does that mean? Well, if we're going to put in puts or if we're going to play any downtrending volatility, most likely we'd be playing it on QBTX, as that could be a potentially really good trade. So we see a little bit of a press down, a break below that 200-day moving average, and a break below that EMA. So what does that mean for QBTS next? Well, part of the reason why we've been able to make some gains and make money trading QBTX or QBTS is because of these consistent swings. They've been quite consistent, and now that it's overextended, I have no other projection in my mind as far as where the stock could go as to see it correct downward. So that's something we'll be watching. Now you might say, well, the financials, they're okay. Negative net income, that happens, but I'm not talking about just negative net income. I'm talking about the $5 billion in market cap that they've surged to and the massive insider selling that has hit the stock as of recently in the past few days. So that's just indication there could be more sell-offs in the near term. And obviously, if you're investing in a company for gains, you want, whether it's short-term or long-term, the intrinsic value to be good. So that's why I wouldn't necessarily look to buy it for the long term as of right, or buy it for the short term as of right now. Now, long-term holders can have more patience, but that's just how it looks on the near term. When it comes to D-Wave and their sites, they haven't, in my eyes, had any new breakthroughs as of recently. They did announce their Advantage 2 system in their latest news on May 20th. It's kind of like the new Series 2 of their quantum annealing computer. It says that they're capable of solving computationally complex problems, and they say that their quantum computer solves hard problems outside of the reach of the world's largest exascale GPU-based classical supercomputers. Now, if it said it can solve hard problems and it says outside the reach of one of the world's largest exascale GPU-based classical supercomputers, to me, I'm looking for the words, it can process like 1 million data points or what have you in 15 seconds, when GPUs that are the newest NVIDIA GPUs process 1 million data points and it takes them 10 minutes or whatever. Like, but I would like some harder based, rather than saying the world's largest, like hard problems isn't very specific, and the world's largest exascale GPU based classical computers running at what capacity. And so the phrase at what capacity, at what benchmark, at what computer usage is something that I found myself saying quite often when at the D-Wave conferences. And I think it's a good question to ask. Now, some people say, Will, it almost sounds like you're a bear on D-Wave. I'm not a bear. It just comes down to verifying the benchmarks to know that when they make claims that it is backed up by something that isn't doublespeak, that it's not sounds better than it is, when in fact, I want to see the comparison to the strongest GPUs and see how they're really working compared to the strongest GPUs, not just the world's strongest GPUs, but what GPUs they're being compared to and with what problem they're both solving, and how the quantum computer is clearly demonstrating more of a efficiency in solving that problem. So hopefully that makes sense. But when it comes to D-Wave, they do have a lot more going for them, as they've had a lot of recent interest from some of the biggest companies. They had a recent partnership with Boeing, who we heard talk at the D-Wave conference. They also had a couple companies there to scout out and see what their technology is like at the recent conference, from Anduril to some of the largest student loan companies, which is really interesting. You imagine they have millions and millions of data points, and they're looking to use quantum to help process that data, which is interesting. When I talked to a lot of the other companies scouting out D-Wave, they still hadn't found D-Wave to be their main solution. However, there was one gentleman who I talked to who was from Jülich in Germany, from that facility that purchased their quantum computer of D-Wave, and that contributed to a large amount of their recent revenue of about $15 million. So if they continue to sell systems and that revenue continues to increase, then D-Wave looks like a really good play. If that was a one-off for the year and their revenue goes back to $1 to $3 million per quarter with that negative net income, then it's not going to look so hot, and the stock most likely will see a dramatic sell back down. So that's kind of how I see it, and hopefully that makes sense. And you guys have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section down below. And again, we will watch it to see if we can play some of this volatility, potentially even some of the downside, if it does continue in that direction. I wouldn't just bet against it right now. I'd want to see more of a clear direction correction down. And if that does take place, like it did today, and kind of continues, then most likely we may play some of that downside. And if you ever want to be there and see that, you could here on YouTube, make sure to subscribe, check out some of the videos here when we cover it. And then also, if you want to join us live at 6:30 a.m. Pacific time, you got to get up kind of early. So if you're, well, on the Pacific coast, you got to get up early, which some people do. I know we even got members from Hawaii who it's really early for them. But again, we go live there every morning. Get a link in your email along with a free Stockmate t-shirt that's included when you enroll in lifetime access. So we'd love to have you there. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you all. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.